A Republican-appointed federal judge has ordered the chief of ICE to appear in his court for possible contempt. Let's discuss. I'm Dave Ehrenberg, former state attorney for Palm Beach County, a.k.a. the Florida Lawman here on Substack. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. It's free, and thank you for your support. Love reading your comments, and you've had a lot of thoughts about the legal basis of ICE agents, of Border Patrol, Border Control agents who have killed now a number of people, most notably Renee Good and Alex Pretty. Those are the ones caught on video. And a federal judge in Minnesota who was appointed by George W. Bush is sick of all the attempts by ICE to distract and obstruct, and he wants answers. And he is now calling in the head of ICE, the chief of ICE, to appear in his court for potential contempt charges. This is really unusual. According to the New York Times, Judge Schultz, and we're talking about Judge Patrick J. Schultz of the Federal District Court in Minnesota, appointed by George W. Bush, wrote that he had been extremely patient with the agency, even though it had sent thousands of agents to the state as part of President Trump's immigration crackdown, but did so without preparing for the legal challenges and lawsuits that were sure to result. He concluded the court's patience is at an end. And why is he impatient? Well, it all started with the case of Juan Hugo Tobe Robles. He's an Ecuadorian man. He entered the United States legally about 30 years ago, has been in custody after immigration agents detained him on January 6th. And so on January 14th, Judge Schultz ordered ICE to allow Mr. Robles to challenge his detention at a hearing within a week or release him from custody altogether. And as part of the ruling, the judge ruled that ICE was holding Mr. Robles under an improper reading of federal law. And this is similar to hundreds of cases that have unfolded in recent months. And again, this according to the New York Times, on Monday night, Judge Schultz wrote that ICE had failed to obey his instructions, noting that Mr. Robles had not yet had a hearing but remained in custody. And the judge, who once clerked for Justice Scalia, who was seen as the godfather of strict constructionists, who's the approach that the right wing on the current Supreme Court follows. This is the guy who, at the time, was seen as the intellectual leader of the conservative judicial movement. Well, Judge Schultz clerked for him, and he's now become a critic of the Trump administration. So the head of ICE, who Judge Schultz ordered to show up in his courtroom, is the acting director named Todd Lyons. And Judge Schultz did offer him just one way out. Judge Schultz said that he would cancel the hearing if ICE released Robles. Remember, the judge said that Robles had been wrongly detained by federal agents, and ICE had been thumbing his nose at the federal judiciary. And now he's saying, you're going to show up in my courtroom or you're going to release this guy. Either or. What's it going to be? And shortly before I recorded this video, what do you think happened? Yes, ICE released Mr. Robles. Which further shows that despite the comments from many out there who watch my videos who believe that the Trump administration would just ignore court orders, well, maybe up to a point, but there's another example of our guardrails holding. And I'm going to do a video about the way that the judiciary has been effective in holding the Trump administration accountable and to forcing their hand, even though it does appear like they often will just thumb their nose at the courts. Well, here's a case where they did it first, and then the court said, you're going to be held in contempt, and the administration relented, and they released Mr. Robles. So that's just part of it. There's more to Judge Schultz. Judge Schultz is also upset when it comes to the attempt to arrest Don Lemon. No, so Don Lemon, the former CNN journalist who is part of independent media, he went into a church with a number of activists. He was following the story. He may have known that they were going into a church, and some of those activists have been charged federally under the FACE Act, which prohibits people from obstructing others who are engaged in worship, in houses of worship, or at abortion clinics. And the federal leaders like the Harmeet Dillon, who's the head of the Civil Rights Division of DOJ, she wanted Don Lemon to be charged with them. Now, number one, you can only be charged under the act if you are trying to obstruct. It's not enough to be there. That could be trespass, but it's not a federal felony like it would be under the FACE Act. Trespass is a low-level state misdemeanor, and he's not being charged by the state authorities for that. But the feds say they want him charged for felonies under this FACE Act, even though the act would not permit that. So they, instead of getting a grand jury indictment, they decided they were going to file the charge themselves. So they had to get a court to sign off. Normally it's pretty automatic, or at least close to automatic, but it wasn't automatic here because Judge Schultz rejected the attempt to prosecute Don Lemon. Not only Don Lemon, but also 4 other people, where the judge said, I'm not gonna sign off on these arrest warrants. And then the DOJ wrote to the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals saying, we want to appeal this decision. And the 8th Circuit is conservative too. And in a letter to the appeals court, the 8th Circuit, Judge Schultz actually said that the requests by the department's lawyers were frivolous and unprecedented. According to the New York Times, he categorically rejected their assertion that the warrants for Mr. Lemon and the others were needed on an emergency basis. And what did the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals do? Well, they rejected the attempt to arrest Don Lemon and the church demonstrators. Again, conservative judges. And 2 of those 3 conservative judges on the panel that made the decision, yes, they were appointed by Donald Trump himself. So, again, guardrails in place. I know when I talk about this, I get lots of comments from you all who are, it's a very sophisticated group out there. Kudos to you, because your comments, your questions are really excellent. But you're saying, well, Trump doesn't abide by these judicial rulings. Well, he has to here, because you can't charge someone unless the judge signs off on it. So even if he doesn't pay attention to it, he can't move forward with the charges. And he hasn't. They have not. Now, they can try to get an indictment, but again, that's fraught with issues where you're going to get grand jurors pushing back like they have in other cases, which is not really that normal either. You're supposed to be able to indict a ham sandwich, but not when you have no legal basis for doing so. Grand jurors are pushing back. I do think there's reason for optimism that the guardrails are holding. And even though the rhetoric coming out of the Trump administration has been disrespectful to federal judges in the past and will continue to be so, I don't share the belief that they just ignore the judges and just continue to do what they're doing without consequence. We'll have that discussion in an upcoming video. But in the meantime, we'll keep following what's going on in Minneapolis. I'm Dave Ehrenberg, a.k.a. the Florida Lawman. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, share with a friend, leave a comment below. Thank you for all your support. You're getting me to 6,000 subscribers. If you haven't done so already, hit the subscribe button. It's still free for now. And I'll see you next time.